The legend of Vox Machina is weird, meaning it feels weird to watch it. Let me explain why. Let me start by explaining what the legend of Vox Machina is and how it came to be, in case there's anyone still left in the D&D community who doesn't know. So, Vox Machina is the name of the group of player characters and the successive name of the first campaign of Critical Role, which is just the biggest D&D Twitch live stream in the world. And since Critical Role is a bunch of voice actors from anime and video games, they've got a background and insight into the animation industry. A few years ago, they made an animated advertisement spot for D&D Beyond. Then about half a year, maybe a year later, they made an animated intro to their second campaign, The Mighty Nine, which was pretty good. And then I think about 2 years ago, they had a Kickstarter to finance a few episodes, maybe a mini-series about the previous adventures of the first group of Vox Machina. Some adventures that had not been seen on screen yet, because they started live streaming their home game in the middle of the campaign, so like level 10 or something. And what can I say? I backed that Kickstarter because I wanted to see these miniseries. And it was so successful that they not only managed to finance 2 episodes or miniseries, but a whole season. And then Amazon picked it up, which, as a Kickstarter backer, you might be salty about. Like, why did I have to give them money if Jeff Bezos was going to bankroll and buy all of this? And now I have to get Amazon Prime so I can watch what I backed on Kickstarter. I personally don't mind that much, because I got Amazon Prime anyhow. No huge difference for me. And I suspect there was no plan to go to Amazon Prime from the start. I suspect that was something that happened because of the enormous success of the Kickstarter. Anyhow, now the first 3 episodes are out and you can watch them on Amazon Prime. And it's good. Yeah, I've got no huge complaints. It is very reminiscent of a Japanese anime, seinen anime to be more precise. So it got more complex story arcs, multi-episode, maybe multi-season story arcs. It's got plenty of violence and some blatantly adult humor. It is not a kids show, so Wizards of the Coast, if you want to bring more new young players into D&D, you need to have these people make another show that is oriented towards a younger audience. The show's got pretty good animation with good fighting choreography, character design, background design. It's similar in that regard to other Western anime like Avatar, Legend of Korra, Castlevania. Some of the 3D elements look a bit wonky, but really that is given across all of the anime industry. That very few shows pull off the combination of 3D and 2D seamlessly. Not even a super popular show made by anime veterans like Demon Slayer manages to pull off 2D and 3D seamlessly. Really, the best combination I've seen of that was Arcane, League of Legends. And they did it the other way around. They had 3D characters in front of 2D backgrounds. The rest of the anime is doing 2D characters in front of 3D backgrounds. Anyhow, the music of the show is also good and catchy, and they've got some original songs in there for Scanlan, the bard, to play during the adventures, and Sam Riegel is singing them himself. The voice acting is as you would have expected from Critical Role. I think it's good, but it's actually hard for me to tell. I come to that later in the video. And they even got some big voice acting names in their cast. For example, there's David Tennant of Scrooge McDuck, or maybe more famously Doctor Who fame. The show is overall pretty light-hearted with a lot of jokes and a lot of humor. Maybe a bit much so. I get the feeling that 3 out of 6 characters of the party are just comic relief. But that still leaves 3 characters for some serious moments. And we've got some serious heartfelt moments throughout the 3 episodes that are already out. Plot so far is not bad. We've got some epic, larger-than-life villains and some unexpected twists. For my tastes, the first story arc was a bit short. I would have liked that to take a bit longer, maybe 3, maybe 4 episodes instead of the 2 episodes that were the first story arc. So they would have more time for more character moments in there. Which is unusually for me. When I'm watching a series, I usually think, oh, they could have cut out half of this. This is moving way too slow. The plot is also where the first weird aspect comes into play. Whenever I'm watching it, I'm asking myself, how did that actually play out on the gaming table? How did that play out as a D&D adventure? I mean, it's not uncommon when you see an epic show to think, how could I adapt that into a D&D adventure? What could I make of this? But now it's the other way around. And when I'm watching it, I'm constantly asking myself, did that happen at the table? Was that a failed saving throw? Is this character now on 0 hit points, or is it already failing death saving throws? It's weird. What is also weird is that whenever I hear the characters talking, I hear the voice actors talking. Usually when I'm watching an animated show, I don't know any of the voice actors, so I can pretend that that is the voice of the characters I'm seeing. But since I've watched an ungodly amount of Critical Role over the last years, when I hear these voices, I can picture Liam O'Brien and Marisha Ray and Matthew Merther and all of them saying these lines instead of the character, which feels weird. Once again, it's a bit distracting as well. But I think it's getting better as I'm watching more of the show. Overall, I think it's a good show, and if you've got Amazon Prime, you should give it a watch. But I think there is some missed potential here as it is. The way it is presented, where we are only shown the events adapted to an animated show, and we are not shown any of the gaming aspects that made this plot happen, means it's a standard fantasy story. There's nothing uniquely D&D or uniquely gamey about it. And I think that's a missed opportunity. If you were to include all of these aspects, if you were to include the players, the gaming table, the dice rolls, and have a meta plot involving all of it, that would make for a more unique show. Does anyone remember The Gamers? That was a small indie film that became famous throughout the internet like, oh god, 20 years ago? And they did exactly that. The film started with a group of friends meeting up in a college dormitory to play D&D. Then as they begin to describe what their characters are doing, it would switch to the fantasy part where they are all dressed as their characters and are in this fantasy world and are acting out what the players are describing. I think that was a brilliant idea. They've got some great humor. Some of the best D&D jokes I have ever seen. And if by any chance you have not watched The Gamers, I'll leave a link up here. Go watch The Gamers. It's great. Now imagine Critical Role and Amazon with all their experience and all their budget would do a show like this, an animated show like this. So we've got Critical Role sitting around the table, playing their game, rolling their dice, and then when they describe what they're doing in character, it switches into the animated episode. I think that would be a great adaptation of D&D into a series. Anyhow, that's all I've got for today. Have you watched The Legend of Vox Machina yet? Did you like it? What do you think about my The Gamers pitch? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching and goodbye.